Paul was a fighter. He wasn't going to sit back and just let this thing happen. Let the new thing that God had finally done through him be destroyed, like a strep infection attacking a bloodstream. His new work was being deteriorated. Galatians may be the first letter that Paul ever wrote, between that and 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, and we get a rare glimpse into the conflict, the transformation we see in the life of Paul, the fighter. He was about 30 years old when he became a believer, knocked off of his horse, as recorded in the 9th chapter of Acts. And he didn't go straight into doing his work. He tried several times, had several false starts, and really was put off to the side. It was God's baking process. The ingredients mixing in, still separated, but blending into the new man that Paul would become. Eventually, after at least a dozen years, Paul starts doing the work, fulfilling the call that Jesus gave him, a call to reach the Gentiles. There was a sudden, remarkable, great amount of fruit, like everything had coalesced, and people were coming to Jesus in droves. The religious folks who had plagued Paul with problems for the rest of his life were following soon after him and reconverting all these Gentiles, these new believers, reconverting them back to a system that would replace an interactive relationship or partnership with the living God. The system was the law, not a bad thing in itself, but as a replacement, horrible. Paul was fighting the battle of grace versus works, of partnership versus manipulation, of vibrancy with the living God to a system disconnected from God. He would have nothing to do with it. And you could tell we see some fiery words mixed with some intense, beautiful things in Paul's life. Words like astonished, throwing you, perverting, accursed. Later on, emasculate, mixed with words of intense power and beauty. Words like servant, revelation, sent, and praise. Later, we would see a Paul maturing into a grace and a peace and still a great power and authority. Are you a work in progress? Well, me too. And take heart. All of us go through that process. All of us mature into the fullness of Christ, into the fullness of who God's making us to be. He's committed to it. We discover it as we go along.